Hi everybody, it's good to have you with us again, and today I'm sitting with Richard Wright. He's from Gauteng. He's a guest artist today. I'm looking forward to doing a collaboration with Richard on this olive, and we plan to do it as a series. You might have seen the blog post on the website on the post collection tips. I'd suggest that you take a look at that again. And but now what we wanted to show you was what is next after your tree has shown good signs of recovery and growth, and that is what Richard is going to be talking to you about. So over to you, Richard.
Terry, thank you very much. What an absolute privilege to work on a tree like this, a really great quality. For those of you who are listening from South Africa, you will know the wild olive well. It's such an amazing subject to work on. We've got this obsession with so many trees from overseas, from Europe, from the UK, from the States. And yet we've got one of the best species available on our doorstep. It's one of my favorite species to work with, and one of the reasons for that, I mean, this is only 3 years growth from a yamadori, from a collected specimen. So a lot of people think that they are slow growing. They really are not. Right now we are pretty much good start into winter. And the tree, as you can see, it's very, very light green foliage. It's extremely healthy and it's still growing. So magnificent from that point of view. There's certainly nothing wrong with it at all. They're very forgiving trees. The wonderful thing about olives is that if we had to cut all the foliage off this tree, we're not going to do that. But if we did, you would find that it would bud back literally all over this trunk. So it's so easy to find, to make sure that there's growth where you want it, and they're extremely forgiving from that point of view. I've got some immediate thoughts on it. Thick, imposing nabari trunk base. It looks good from all angles, and that makes it very easy or very hard, because there are just so many different angles that would make a good front. So the first thing we want to do is figure out where we're going to go with the tree, where the front's going to be, why we've chosen that front, and then the overall. So I always like to look at the nabari first, the base, and the base is pretty much going to tell me where I want to go with the tree. It's no good me thinking, well, this the rest of the tree looks like it might be a broom style or might be formal upright, obviously not in this case, and then I look at the nabari and it just doesn't tell the same story. And that's what we're doing with bonsai, is we're telling a story. We're creating an illusion of something that you might see in nature. So immediately I kind of think to myself, how would this tree be growing? How does the wild olive grow in nature? And where Terry dug this tree in the Western Cape, they grow in clumps, and it's more a big shrub than it is a single stemmed or single trunked tree. So what I love about what Terry has found here is material that has got a beautiful imposing trunk. It radiates out in all angles, in all directions, which is great. And then he's already selected 5 prominent trunks. And so do I want to keep all 5? And if I don't want to keep 4, so I'd have to go to 3. So where do I want to go? Now what you might notice is that this main trunk, and this very definitely is our main trunk, and we definitely want to keep it because this is going to give the idea of taper, very strong opposing trunk, very quickly into a taper, and it leans slightly towards the front, and that's beautiful. That gives us this illusion of this great big tree looming over us. It puts us into the middle of the planting quite quickly and easily, and it gives us a great element of scale. So if that's going to be our first tree, our major trunk. So if you can get in here so everybody can see right into the trunk, you'll notice that what's lovely is that the trunks come out of this base. So we don't have a base and then trunks coming out a little bit higher up. It's absolutely perfect. And I think what I love most, Terry, if you can get in here, is the fact that the main trunk actually seems to start higher up than these smaller trunks underneath it. And I'm going to swing us around here, Terry, so we can have a look at this side, and you'll see the same thing. So this is almost the lowest part of the trunk, and then this one comes up a little bit higher, and again it all moves into this beautiful movement of the main trunk this bark is spectacular. It gives us an illusion of age straight away. I want to be able to reveal the bark. I don't want too much foliage at the bottom because I want us to be able to see this incredible base. So on an olive like this, it's a very good idea to give them at least 1-2 years growth, free growth. So what often happens with an olive is that they grow very nicely on the top, lots of foliage, but they haven't really produced much from a rooting point of view. And what we also don't want to do is we're going to do some minimal carving on this tree. This is not a tree that's going to have a lot of deadwood on it, but even some minimal carving, what we don't want to do is to rock the tree, move the tree, shake the tree, and then those fine little roots haven't developed properly, and then we sever them and wonder why the tree is suffering. I've seen people that work in the first year and they start to wire and cut back, and the trees take longer in the long run to develop. So what I'm going to do, I want to be able to see a little bit more, so I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to start to cut off some of the growth on the insides, growth that I'm not going to use, and what this is really going to do, places like this, probably hard to see, but there are 3 branches coming out of the same place. I don't want that. I'm going to take the one that's growing into the inside of the tree away. Why? Because in nature we don't find branches growing into the middle of a tree. Why not? Because the branches are all going to grow out to seek light. You'll find that branches growing out into the light are obviously stronger than those that are growing into the inside of the tree, and ultimately they're going to die anyway. Again, I don't want to get rid of anything at this point in time that I might need later. So I'd rather come back and clean again if I need to than take off something that I can't put back in. So this is going to be my apex. Over here. So what I don't want is all these little pieces that are hanging about doing nothing. So we're going to move that. We're going to move this one as well. So what we've got here, the tree was obviously cut off. It's been sealed, and it's grown so nicely. So we've got the apex. We've got another good sized branch here, another one underneath it, another one here, and then at the back there are another 2. And I want to keep as many on as possible for my design. So I'm going to take the little pieces off again, but I'm not going to take any of these big branches off. If I did at some point in time, it wouldn't be now. I want to leave as much as I possibly can. Hope I'm not getting in the way of the camera there. This is an interesting one, right? A branch has moved, has grown out here. Terry has cut that one off. So he's let branches grow and cut back. So this tree has been cut back once only. I've got 2 options. I can cut this piece off here, in which case I'm going to go with this, but I'm always going to go up and then have a bow shape. It's going to be impossible for me to bring this up without breaking this. So that is one option, but now I've got this tree that is growing up in that direction, and this one comes up and swoops down. That's just not going to be believable. So there's another branch over here, and I'm going to have more success in being able to do something with this. I'm just going to support it on the outside to bend it down, but I can get quite a lot of bend here and bring it around, and that's ultimately going to give me better shape that looks like. So what I've done is I've gone ahead and removed as much as I'm comfortable to remove at this stage. There might be 1 or 2 of the smaller branches that might come off, but you'll be able to see that I really have cleaned it up. What I've also done is I've removed the dead ends of all of the branches, and what I've done is I've cut it back. You'll see in this one here, so that ultimately when it calluses over and this one grows, it's going to be a far more pleasing angle than being straight off. So you'll notice that I've cut further back on the one side. I could even do a little bit more for 1 or 2, but right now I'm happy I can come back at another stage. What I need to do now is go ahead, and I'm going to be using this product here. It's a sealant, and I'm going to go ahead and seal all of the places where I have now opened up. Now I'm making sure when I seal that I am getting the sealant on the cambium, and the cambium, as you know, is the green section, which is what we want to make sure we don't damage too much of, and it's what's going to ensure that the tree continues to grow. Cut off the cambium, and you're going to cut off a branch. I'll go ahead and seal all of the cuts that I have made. So there are a couple of things I'd like to say about this tree before I explain what I've done. and just the collecting process. And I want to just say kudos to Terry. I think a lot of people dig trees. They go out into the felt or the fields or the wild or whatever it is, and they just get this kind of a FOMO, fear of missing out. I see when I must dig it. I see when I must dig it. And what I like to do is, if I'm going out digging for a day, I like to spend the entire morning just walking around. Literally just walking around. But I like to do that because very often that first one that you find, you look at it, you haven't been looking at trees, you've been living your city life for most of us, you've been looking at your bonsai, and now you've got this opportunity to go and dig an olive, and you see the first really what you think is an amazing olive, and you start digging that tree. And so I like to spend the entire morning just looking around, and then going back in the afternoon and taking my time. And I found that way I dig better trees. I've already got a plan for the tree before I take it out. There's no point in just taking out a trunk because it is an olive, and maybe you'll figure out what to do with it when you figure out and see what has survived. And what I like about this tree is Terry had an idea when he dug it. Exactly where he was going with this tree. He wanted a multi-trunk style. He already had an idea of the proportions of each of the trunks, how many there were going to be, and the final design of the tree. And I really love that. So there's a part of me that looking through this tree, I kind of think, okay, so I can carve this section back, I can remove this section here, I can remove this one on that side here, I can carve this one back a little bit and remove this one here, and what I'm left with is this incredibly thick trunk that goes into great movement for a short, big, powerful trunk. But how many of those trees have we seen? So many. So that's great potential, and we can always do that down the line. But I think this material deserves something better, something more unusual. So kudos for Terry for looking for something and finding something that is that. So what I've done is I've removed anything that I don't think is going to fit into the overall design. I've taken away the small little branches. I've sealed up. And essentially we've cleaned up the tree. I've got a good idea of where my front is going to be. I've got a good idea of what I'm going to keep, what it's going to look like. But you know what we'd like? We'd love it if you would take a stab at putting a drawing together of what you think that this tree could look like. We'd be very keen to see that. If you're keen, just pop it up on social media and tag Terry, and let's see what you come up with. And who knows, you might just produce something that's better vision for the tree than I've got, and I might just credit you with the design. But please go ahead and do that. And now what's going to happen, so there are a couple of things probably hard for you to see. Let me try and move this tree around. So this piece here unfortunately has died off, so we're going to have to deal with this. So we've got a couple of choices. We can either carve this and tell the story of a thick branch that died back, or we can try and reduce it just to a little stump. But what we don't want is just to cut it off flat, seal it with something, and that's never going to look great. We've got this piece here that we are going to have to clean up and carve a little bit. As I mentioned earlier, patches like this, if you can just get in there, Terry, that we're going to have to clean up a bit as well. At the back here, that's quite a big piece that we're going to have to do something with. I left this because it'd be great to be able to fill in. There's very little on this side of the tree here, and I kind of figured that if I can bend this round coming out into this position, it fills in a gap at the back. So that's why I didn't take that one off. We've got good growth on this side here, but we're going to have to do something, whether it's carving into this from the bottom and just cleaning it out a little bit, taking away some of this part here. So that's what we're going to do next time, is figure out how we can get into the tree, clean it up, and do something with the deadwood.
Thanks very much, Richard, for the work that you've done so far. Bonsai is not an instant art form. It does take a process, and we've taken one step in the right direction now. And I am looking forward to seeing what Richard does the next time. We're doing some carving, and I hope you've enjoyed and learned something from this first episode, and that you'll tune in again when we do the next one. So thanks very much, Richard, and safe travels back home.
Thanks very much.
We hope to see you again soon.
Fabulous. Thanks for watching. See you next time.